Chris Lee has been a contributor and a friend for a long time here on the show, covered Vanderbilt. And I tell you, man, that's been yeoman's work for a long time. How different is it for you now? By the way, this timing was incredible. Wait, explain. Pull your mic a little closer, though. Just sure. Yeah. Explain to people what just happened here, like with you texting me running around here.
Well, look, you can walk faster downtown than you can drive, but you can't walk very fast here either.
I mean, this is. You asked me earlier in the week. What the LSU crowd was going to be like, and I wasn't really sure. A lot of disappointment after the Ole Miss loss. Chris, I don't know if it's just that every LSU fan in Nashville is in this bar right now, but it's lit. All right, give me a sense of what it's like covering Vanderbilt for a guy that's done it your whole career now. Clark Lee, Diego Pavia, winning team, favored for a game, favored against a top 10 opponent for the first time in 50 years.
It's like going from eating out of the dumpster to like, okay, wait, this is how everybody else lives. Football is fun.
Yeah.
Like, you go into Saturdays with an anticipation if you don't know what'll happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's new. This is the first time Vanderbilt's been a favorite, Matt, in 51 SEC games.
51.
And you know, they've not been favored over LSU since 1948. But it's just been bad to the point, like, there's nothing. I stopped podcasting because I'd said it all. There's nothing more to say. Like, they're bad. They're going to get beat a lot this week. 2 years ago, they lost every SEC game that they played by at least 17 points.
That was the 0-8 team that went 2-10 overall.
And look, 2 years before that, or maybe 3, I guess, or 2, was 2020. And like, as bad as they have been, Matt, they have never gone over for a season. Like, you can go back to 1890 or whatever, when they played 2 games against the YMCA or whatever. They've never gone over for a season.
Yeah.
Right? That happened
literally the YMCA.
Right. They've never gone over for a season, and then, you know, you think you've got it figured out a couple of years ago, and it goes all back to crap again the next year. Yeah. And then last year with Pavia beating Alabama, that was kind of the first step of, oh, wow. Like, I will tell you, at no point last year did I think they would beat Alabama. It did not occur to me till the fourth quarter of the game, like, hey, they may be able to run the clock out and win it. And it is, like, they were not as good last year as they are this year. But that was kind of the beginning of, because I don't know if you remember this, Paul Feinbaum had done a show, I don't know, a few weeks before the season, and he had said...
Last year?
Yeah. He said, is this the last year that, has Vanderbilt won its last game as a member of the SEC against another SEC school? And like, at the time, that felt like a fair question, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got conference realignment and money is rolling things on, like, what do they have to offer at the table? They completely flipped the script. They did the stuff they needed to do with additions and just common sense stuff. And I think the college football landscape, it's like a rubber band. You know, you take a rubber band like this and you pull it out. That's what it used to be. Now college football is a rubber band that nobody has pulled out, and the ends are closer. The teams are all closer. Now, I think that goes for the Power 4, right? I don't think it goes for Kent State, but like, the world of opportunity has brought them to a place where competitiveness is not crazy, and then they made the pivots administratively to get there.
Yeah. Is Vanderbilt, I would say, the administration and the support, the boosters, committed to being good long term?
I mean, it feels like it for a change. It used to be the thing was, I would hear this over and over, like, how is anybody going to win here? They would tell me, like, okay, we'll give our coach facilities that they need once they win some games. I'm like, well, wait a minute. They're not winning games because everything around here sucks.
Yeah, it's a chicken or the egg conversation.
And then, like, once every 10, 12 years, somebody would go 7-6. They get excited for a minute, and then it would go back to what it was. Probably the most important thing that happened to them was 3 years ago they played UNLV in September. And this is after they'd beaten Florida, beaten Kentucky, thought they had it figured out. Yeah. They go to UNLV, they get beat by a mobile quarterback. Jade Maia, who ended up the bigger places. Yeah. And at that point, they're like, hey, this is not going to work. And I had one of the parents of one of the quarterbacks on the roster call me a couple weeks later, and he said, hey, look, coaches to talk with my son, encourage him to transfer elsewhere. Done that with all the quarterbacks on the roster because they have decided if they are going to win, they're going to have to get a mobile quarterback. They cannot go up against LSU's and Alabama's with the same kind of approach everybody else does, right? And so when they made
was that AJ Swan? Not that you have to give out your source, but like
no,
ended up at LSU.
Actually, it was not. I did talk to his dad too.
Okay, yeah.
But that was not the guy.
Yeah.
But and then he wound up somewhere else.
But it's an example of it's an illustration of what you're talking about.
Yeah, but anyway, fast forward to a year later, they're figuring out how are we going to do this, right? And they watch. Clark Lee watches Auburn get beat by New Mexico State.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, those guys have figured something out. Let's tap into that. Within a couple of months, they have hired Diego Pavia, the coaching staff, and here you are, where they're a 2.5-point favorite tomorrow. Like that's not a world at any point where I thought we'd be living in. But they're a good football team.
Chris Lee, Vandy 247, Southeastern16.com as well. Make sure you're there. You're subscribed to all the content, YouTube, podcast, everywhere. Make sure you check it out there. Chris has covered Vandy. Chris has gone through the lean years, man. He has been so well. We've had a lot of good baseball conversations.
Yeah.
Those have been a bit more productive than the football ones. But this is a game tomorrow where we look at it, and it's fascinating because. I think there's a very clear strength-on-strength, week-on-week component of this game. Where do you look at as what is the key matchup on Saturday?
Gosh, I think there's a bunch of key ones. It's a line of scrimmage league. Vanderbilt's offensive line this year is really good, really good. So I think just doing what they do, don't turn the ball over, run the ball, control the clock. That's going to be a big thing, number one. I think number two, I know LSU has struggled, right? The offensive struggles have been well documented.
Yeah.
If you played this game 100 times, there's a couple games out there where Nussmeier looks like the guy we thought. They've got a room of receivers who can really run.
Yeah.
And I'm a little worried about Vanderbilt being able to cover some of those guys on a good day. Now, like, it hasn't shown up yet, but it's not impossible either. And so I think to me, you want to keep LSU where they are. You don't want to get them confident. You probably get after the quarterback early. They've got a pretty good pass rush. They got 3 or 4 guys that can really get after you. To me, it's a strength on strength with Vanderbilt's offense and LSU's defense. That's where it's interesting. But I think the thing you don't want to have happen if you're Vanderbilt is LSU's offense to show up like everybody thought, because then there's a really difficult game for them to win.
Yeah. We talked about keys for the game tomorrow. If Vanderbilt wins the game, what do you think it looks like?
I think they want to be positive in turnovers, right? Can you hear me okay?
Just pull it closer.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey man, we got Martina McBride going on back here. I know. But you know what they told me, like back in the they're like they can't even hear the noise. I mean the headphones are so amazing, the mics are so amazing, not even picking all that up.
Hear it all,
but I know, but you and I can barely hear each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got to be positive in turnovers. That was a thing where they failed against Alabama. Again, you don't want LSU to look like the LSU offense they thought. LSU ran the ball better a week ago. You want to keep that in check. And I think special teams could be a big thing. Nobody talks about them. Vanderbilt's got a really good kicker in Brock Taylor, who I think they trust inside of 60. I don't think he's missed a field goal in a calendar year. Wow. Now, he hasn't tried many lately because they convert touchdowns, but those are just some things that I think to look for. And the 11 o'clock kickoff, like that's tricky. Who shows up ready to play? I don't think weather will be a factor, but that's a bunch. I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
I don't think one name's clearly better. I think you've got LSU's best unit, which is the defense, playing Vandy's best unit, which is the offense. And I think that point alone is going to be really, really fun.
Yeah. Brian Kelly has made the point all week that this is a game that for LSU has to be won on first and second down, because if you get to a situation where Vandy's consistently in third and short, it's the reason they convert 60% on third down, then they wear you down. Your defense are on the field. If you flip it and LSU is able to get going offensively, what do you think is sort of the culprit for Vanderbilt?
I think it's what you saw against Alabama, the inability to cover elite athletes downfield. They didn't play a lot of those before last week. It's not like Alabama gassed them left and right there, but there's a lot of guys. the Andersons, Barry and Brown, like those guys could be problems on the wrong day. Vanderbilt moved Martell Hyde, who was a two-way guy, back to primarily an a defensive guy. He's the best cover corner. They did that against Alabama. I think that was an indicator that, hey, they're worried about that kind of thing. I think if you're Vanderbilt, that's one of the primary things. And LSU's defense is just so good. Like, I am curious, did Alabama put something on film that translates? In terms of Vanderbilt didn't score in the second half of that game. Yeah. They kind of cut down Pavia's escape lanes. LSU's front seven is very good, and their secondary is great. And so I do wonder, is there something there in terms of, because the problem with Vanderbilt is you can contain them and get them 3rd and 8 and have all the receivers covered, and then Pavia goes for 13. And by the way, he's healthier this year than he was when they played last year, which is a big thing and coming off a bye week. But I think those are some of the key things I'll be watching.
I know there's some we talked about it at the beginning of the show today, but there's some reports now that are trickling out in addition. I think it's doubtful that Whit Weeks plays in the game. So saw him yesterday at the facility wearing a boot, and some of the things I heard when I asked around, it doesn't sound like he's going to play. And I know there's some other reports today. So, if Bernard Gooden, who's LSU, played the most snaps defensive tackle for LSU, isn't available, and Whit Weeks isn't available, that changes LSU's dynamic in the front seven against a really good running team. We got 60 seconds, so who wins why?
I think Vanderbilt wins by one score, maybe a 27-24 type game.
Similar to last year.
Just because I think when push comes to shove, I trust them. Like if somebody's got it, say it goes to overtime, who I trust to score. I just think I trust Vanderbilt to make a play. They're a really good team. Again, line of scrimmage is a big thing. Their offensive line is really good. They're also, I think, the oldest team in the country, which matters, I think, in games like this.
I think it's one of those things that Clark Lee and Barton Simmons did very wisely. They identified what their approach was going to be, and it was go get old, experienced players that can buy into the system. It's going to be a fascinating thing to see, and it's going to be a good environment if this turnout is any indicator. Chris Lee, of course, Vandy 247 Southeastern 16. Check him out, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for battling the crowds to go join us here. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.